Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 1 of the Escaping from Tarkov podcast. I'm your host, Sipple.
And I'm your co-host, Xillie.
And today we're going to be talking about 0.12, the biggest patch in Tarkov's history, all the changes that it's bringing, and how it's affecting the metagame. The biggest change in .12 was the introduction of the Unity 2018 engine. It brought many new optimizations to the game and a bunch of big changes. I think one of the biggest changes so far is the visual aspect to it.
Dude, this game looks nutty now. Honestly, it looks so insane. I watched some gameplay footage that I took of myself from a couple patches ago, and I didn't even recognize customs. Straight up, it looks so different. It's so much better now.
The lighting changes are crazy. Everything looks so good.
Yeah, dude, I took some crazy screenshots on reserve. The new lighting is just insane, especially when you go underground.
I haven't seen that talked about a lot, the lighting changes, but the way it bounces off of different effects, it's mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's really interesting, actually. The way the new Unity engine handles lighting is very, I don't know from a technical aspect, but it's very similar to RTX. So I played the new Call of Duty, and the lighting in that was pretty cool, and it has RTX, and I used RTX, obviously. But the lighting in Tarkov is actually like a fake RTX in certain scenarios. It's not actually ray tracing, but the shadows are so spot on, and the way it actually reflects off of surfaces, it's pretty cool. It could trick you.
Yeah, the Unity 2018 engine was a huge improvement. I was leery at first hearing about it. I didn't think it would have this much of an effect. I thought they were feeding us snake oil, but the amount of stutters that have decreased is crazy. My game feels like an entirely new game.
Yeah, mine still feels about the same, but I've always had performance issues with this game. That's just me, though.
You think the stutters are that much, or they're on the same level?
Let me say this. I think my stutters are better in the sense that I don't actively get them during gunfights now. I still get them once in a while, but they're not they're not consistent in the way that I can replicate them. On the old engine, every time, especially on labs, if I would scope in and start firing, instant stutter. At least that's gone. So that's a plus.
But even the brevity and duration of the stutters is a lot better. Before, the game used to lock up for seconds and seconds on end at the worst times you could possibly want them. When I'd be going in and out of my inventory, I would lock up. Scopes would lock up. When player scavs would spawn in, I would lock up. I'm getting so much less of those. I get a couple a game.
I also experienced a lot less of the actual long stutters.
I also have noticed that as the duration of the patch has gone on, the stutters have been increasing. At the beginning of the patch, I felt like they were very far and few between, but now I'm getting a lot more. And that's been a common sentiment throughout the patches, and I've heard people say this, that as the patch goes on, the stutters have been increased. I don't really know what's causing that, and I don't think anybody's come up with a good answer to that. There's been speculation about it, but I'm not sure what's actually happening.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of talk on Reddit about, there are a lot of people that think it has something to do with the flea market, actually. They think it has to do with the backlog of buying and selling, slowing down the servers. I have no clue if that's true, but I agree with you. Day 1 and 2 of the patch was like butter. We're about, 2 weeks in now? And it does feel a little worse. But yeah, I really like the new engine. It definitely visually is extremely impressive.
The grass rendering is another huge change. It completely changed the way this game looks, plays, and feels. Woods is an entirely different map now. Going from about 30 meters to grass rendering to 200 changed it dramatically.
Grass rendering is scary now. Woods is scary. That map, people just be laying down. They could be right in front of you, you have no clue.
Yeah, grass is actually a valid form of cover now. You can just lay in grass and use it effectively. Before, if you lay down on woods in any type of fight, you're just going to get shot down. The grass didn't render at all.
And speaking of laying down, crawling meta, new meta, because they upped the crawl speed. So, yeah, laying down in grass and crawling at your opponents might actually be viable if you do it in a smart way.
Not even the crawl speed, the crawl sound was huge, because when you were in a fight with somebody and you heard them go prone, that gave you such a big advantage. You can actively fight upon that. If you hear them go prone, you know that they're going to be laying low. You have a point of aim for them. You can nade them, push them out.
Oh, especially if they go prone and they're not wearing a face shield. Because they're aiming at you, they give you a nice clear shot. It's super easy.
That's why I don't go prone against scavs. The moment you go prone on a scav, they will tap you right in the head.
All right, so moving on from that, what other points of interest do we have with the new engine? We covered the optimizations, we covered the lighting changes, the stutters, the new grass is great. Something I think that's really interesting, at least for Battlestate games specifically, is that they're pushing Unity to a point no one else is pushing it. They're taking it further than any other developer, at least from what I know. And it seems like for them it's interesting to try and code some of the features they want because nobody else has done it before, so they have to pioneer the techniques that they need to do these things. They can't just say, hey, how did this game handle it with this engine, because nobody else is doing it.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of hurdles that they've run into coding a game of this size. They run into so many problems that nobody has ever experienced before. They're actually having to contact Unity themselves and saying, hey, how do you help us out here? We're completely stuck. We're having a problem and we don't know how to get around it.
Yeah, so shout out to Battlestate for that, because that's ambitious, man. Not a lot of developers anymore are really pushing the boundary of what an engine can handle. They usually just use the engine they think fits their game best and code it out of what they know. Battlestate is taking an engine that's really not made for this and pushing it to its absolute boundaries.
Yeah, Tarkov is a huge undertaking. The sheer depth of this game is mind-blowing. From the rails on the guns to the way everything behaves and interacts, checking your chamber. I have never seen a game delve this deep into it, and the fact that they did it on the Unity engine is kind of crazy. That's actually what turned me away from this game for a long time, is I saw very early footage of the game when it was probably an alpha, I would say. And I heard that it was on the Unity engine, and I saw all the problems. I said, this game will never turn out to be anything solid because of the Unity engine. The fact that Battlestate could undertake this task and get it done on the Unity engine, I gotta give them a round of applause.
Yeah, good job. Good job, Nikita and team. You guys did it. So speaking of the new engine and moving forward with the changes, let's talk about, with the new patch, the game became a lot more popular. So we have a lot of concurrent players right now because a lot of people came back to the game. A lot of new players are picking the game up. Let's talk about the spawns for a minute. I have a serious problem with the way that we spawn in currently, and I think I'm not the only one. Spawns feel really cheap and metagamey right now because you know where people are spawning near you. For example, this week I was watching Smoke stream. He spawned in on reserve, he looked to his left, he ran maybe 10 feet, and he got grenaded. He got hit by a nade and just died. Maybe 10 seconds into the game? That's insane to me. And there's gotta be some solutions. Super simple change. Why don't you just mark out zones? So we have like a zone where you potentially could spawn and have it be randomized. So you can spawn at the top of the zone, the bottom, etc., etc. Instead of being like, hey, I spawned here, I know somebody's like 30 meters to my left, or, however you want to measure it.
Now, there's a couple ways to break that down. So a lot of that problem actually stems from late spawns, I think. On Factory, I would come in a minute and a half late, and I would get shot within 3 seconds because people know where my spawn is. I think that is a bigger problem than having set spawns. Now, in a game like Tarkov, you don't want set spawns because Tarkov's a very random game, and you don't know what you're going to run into from raid to raid. But I personally don't have a problem with it because I think it gives a higher skill cap and lets players know where to be looking, where to be avoiding. For people that have played the game for a while, they know where to expect fights early game, and they know where to go and where they shouldn't go. So I don't know if that is necessarily the problem of having set spawn points. They've tried before to be able to change up the spawns way early on. When you had maps in the game, you could actually pick your own spawn point, for some people that don't know, and you could choose where you could spawn. But I don't know if the problem actually stems from having fixed spawn points.
I agree and disagree to parts of that sentiment. So I do think it raises the skill cap. I think you're correct there. But the problem I have with it is, if you're not necessarily skilled, or if you're new and you have no clue what to expect, you're just going to get dumpstered on until you learn. But I mean, that's fine. That's how you learn. But I think the bigger issue is when you're dealing with a system where you have these spawns predetermined and you know them. Yes, it is a skill cap and an ability to be able to handle them effectively, but also it makes you kind of feel pigeonholed right off the get-go. Once I'm like 4 or 5 minutes into raid, I'm comfortable because I know everybody's, going and doing their thing, and we can play it out from there and figure it out and approach it in a tactical way. But at the beginning of the game, I always feel like, hey, I either have to go fight this guy, I have to go run through this chokehold before somebody else, or I just have to give it a couple minutes and let people pass. Like it kind of it takes away one of the funnest things in Tarkov for me, which is that you never know what you're gonna get. The sheer randomness of every single game you go into. I don't like the idea of feeling like I only have these three options when I spawn in, but that's not a major problem. It's, quality of life thing. It's a complaint that I have, but I don't think it's a problem for the game.
I have a completely different view on that. I think that knowing where other people are going to spawn gives me a sense of comfort more than it does me feeling anxious. When I'm late into a raid, people can be anywhere. When I spawn in, I know where I should be looking, where I shouldn't be looking, what fights I could take, and what fights I shouldn't take. I know a lane to be looking down, I know an area to be aiming at, I know where people can be within the first 5 minutes of the map. That actually gives me some sense of relief.
I can see the relief. I guess we just have to agree to disagree on this one, because I don't need the relief. I'd rather have the fun. I'd rather have the randomness, I guess.
Different strokes for different folks.
Yeah, next thing on the docket. Let's talk about the new weapons we got this patch, because we got quite a few.
There's a couple good ones.
And a couple bad ones. So let's start out with the first bad one. Or good, depends on your view. The M9A3. I really like it, you really hate it. Let's talk about it.
No, I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. I think it's my favorite low-tier pistol. And I don't think it has anything to do with the usage of it. I just like how it sounds. It is a fun gun. I play the game to have cool guns, and I like building guns how I like it. I don't necessarily have to run a meta gun every raid like a lot of people do. I think the M9A3 is great. If you want to run pistols early on, the iron sights are great on it. Shoots the 9mm Parabellum. You can get some good rounds for that. I would much rather that than a Makarov.
Speaking of good rounds, how do you feel about these subsonics? The more I use them, the less I like them.
In which gun specifically? Are you talking generalization?
The 9x19, the AP63.
Oh, I don't think that's a subsonic round.
But
But the AP63 is... I had a lot of good experiences with that at the end of last wipe. I was running a lot of MPXs, MP5s at the end, running around factory, and you can tear through almost any face shield. The moment you run into an Alton, you have a problem. But besides from that, if you just aim at heads, they're laser beams. I think it's a good round. You're talking about a 9x19 pistol. I don't know how much better you're really going to make that if you're aiming for an aspect of realism. But I think that's one of the best additions they did to buff those lower tier guns.
you know what? You're absolutely correct. Shout out Veritas. I'm checking on the Battle Buddy app here. They are not subsonic, but they do have an oddly low muzzle velocity of 392 meters per
So that's
second.
right above it. I think it's 360. Don't quote me on that. I think 340 to 360, somewhere where they go
Yeah, so
under subsonic.
pretty slow bullet, but I guess not subsonic. Yeah, I mean, it's a decent bullet. I don't know. I feel like I can't hit headshots with it. Maybe I just suck at aiming.
But if you look at the game 11.5 and earlier, if you were to run an MP5 MPX, you're pushing PSTGZH. And if you run into any face shield, you had no chance of winning that fight.
Yeah, you gotta...
At least brings up those lower tier guns to a point where they have some sort of viability in the late game.
You're right, because you'd have to completely knock that face shield down to 0 before you could get through it. You're talking several rounds. You're probably dead by then. So yeah, M9A3. I give it a B. Give it like a B.
A B. I'll give it a solid B. Best irons in the game on a pistol.
Yeah, I can see that. I think they're really good. So let's move on to our other new pistol we got, which is super exciting. The FN57.
It's my favorite pistol.
I think it's actually better than some rifles in the game, personally.
Yeah, it's a really solid gun, and it's not that expensive for what you get.
Yeah, at a base look, we'll say it's not too expensive. When we start customizing it, then you're looking at a pretty expensive gun.
Yeah, the suppressor costs a pretty penny, but that's not necessary. You can run irons in just that gun with those 20-round mags.
Oh, it shreds.
Shooting that 5.7 by 28, you can do some real damage with that. Especially now, before everybody's running Class 5 armors and Gen 4s, you can do a lot of damage to people. You can easily kill people through the chest with that. And I like having a pistol that has some sort of viability. Before, you were talking Glock 17, Glock 18 with AP 6.3, and that Glock 18 shoots so fast and it's so uncontrollable that you can't get anything done with it. The fact that we have a pistol that can finally pen high-tier armor, that's really exciting to me. I've been running that a lot this wipe.
Yeah,
I've never been a huge pistol guy, but I've been enjoying it.
Yeah, can we talk about the SB193? This bullet has 37 pen and 54 damage. That's insane for a pistol. That's
Yeah.
just
I know a lot of people have been using the lower tier ammos below that, the 190 and the 191, I think they're called.
Yes.
One's a tracer and the other one's not, just because of the muzzle velocity. That's what I saw content creator Deadly Slob talking about. I don't know. I've been running the subsonics with it because I don't really take a lot of long range engagements with a pistol. I'd rather have the higher pen and higher damage. And it's still a pretty cheap round if you look on the flea market. I think it's cheaper than the other 2 rounds below it at this point.
I'm pretty
right
sure
now.
The 193 is actually cheaper than the 191 and the 190.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that's not being used or touched upon, but it's a solid
I think people
round.
just haven't figured it quite out yet. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, there's a lot we haven't figured out about this patch.
Well, I mean, yeah, we're 3 weeks in, but we're getting there. We're getting there. Any other comments on the 5.7 before we go to our next weapon?
Well, I know that 5.7 ammo works really great in the submachine gun, the FNP90.
Oh, the other FN gun we got this patch, yeah. The big spray boy.
Yeah, decent gun. Underwhelmed by it.
I've used it, 3 raids now? I think 3. And I like it as a close quarters solution. A lot of people are saying, hey, you put the long barrel on this thing, get a decent sight, you basically got a nice rifle. I don't know if I'd agree to that statement. It is accurate, I'll give you that, but the bullet that it shoots, if I'm taking an engagement at range, I would just rather have a rifle. I don't want a submachine gun that we're calling a rifle. But close up, this thing shreds. It's great.
I would like the P90 a lot more if there was no MP7, and that's my biggest problem with it. The MP7's a cheaper alternative to it. It shoots a better round in the 4.6mm bullet. That one has a much higher, I think it's 47 pen on the APSX, and you don't really need to mod it. You throw a scope on the top, maybe a foregrip and that's it. You can throw a suppressor on the end. The P90 has a lot of weird rails. The mags take forever to load. You just have to fill up your whole rig full of mags and just not pack them up because the pack speed is crazy high on them.
Yeah, it's so slow. It is ridiculously slow. I have packed many of mags with that gun, and every time I'm doing it, I'm just like, all right, let's take a 2-minute break here to pack up a magazine. It's understandable. The gun has to have some downfall. I think once we get some more magazine options, if we're going to get more magazine options, I don't really think there's not very many magazines even in real life.
I think they're all going to be 50 rounders.
Yeah, they're a set size. They have to be a 50 rounders, but I don't even think they really make pro mags or anything for that gun. I'm not a gun expert, but
clear mag incoming.
Yeah, that is what we've been told the Russian on the side of the magazine means.
Yeah, if you look on the side of the magazine, there's some Russian writing that translates roughly to something saying that there's a clear mag incoming for the gun.
Yeah, and if you're following along with our YouTube video, I'll get that up for you right here. Now, one major gripe I have with the P90, and you kind of brought this on earlier, the MPX, you spray that down, easy, controllable recoil. The P90 I've had some issues with. I know I'm not using like the optimal build for it. I will say that right off of the let go. But man, controlling the P90 when you're just holding that left click down seems a little tougher than what I expected. I mean, I'm used to the Counter-Strike P90. You just hold W and left click and you go.
And you rush B.
Yeah. I don't think we can rush B on Tarkov with this P90 though.
There's not a lot of things you can do to bring down that recoil though. All you can really do is put on a longer barrel or a suppressor, and you have to choose one either way there. You can't have the long barrel with the suppressor.
Correct. That long barrel has that compensator built into it, so you cannot actually mount anything other than that compensator it comes with on it.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the gun itself. I like the gun. I just think there's better options. If I pick it up off a raider, I'll use it. I'll bring it into raids. I don't have a problem with it. But I don't see myself really ever actively searching that gun out. I've never been a fan of the gun, honestly. I don't think it's a good-looking gun. I think it's pretty horrendous. I know that's going to offend a lot of people, but...
Hey, I agree with you on that one. Cool looking gun. I'll say it looks cool. But when we're talking about something stylish and sleek, the P90 is not where I would look for that.
It's so bulky when you have it on your screen. There's no good scope mounts for it. Everything sits so high. It's just it doesn't fit for me.
Long barrel P90 with the Valde, baby. Let's take up half the screen. Let's do it. Past that, speaking of sleek, stylish weapons that are nice to look at, the Ash 12. Let's talk about that. It is a great looking gun. On paper, it's an even greater looking gun. In use, I'm not a fan. And I've heard similar comments from a lot of people. I haven't seen many people running it. The mags are expensive, the ammo is expensive, the gun itself is... The whole thing is just expensive. There's a lot more cost-effective solutions for what this gun is meant for. A lot of people are trying to use it for assault-style engagements, close to mid-quarter combat. And the spray on this thing, the recoil on this gun is damn near uncontrollable no matter what you do to mod it. You gotta tap fire it. And that's where I think the Ash 12 actually is a better long-range DMR type rifle than something I want to take into dorms. I'll take it on woods all day long. I think tap firing with this thing is great. Even if they're wearing great armor, hit them in the chest, that armor is done. 2 tap them, they're dead. But trying to actually fight people close up, I feel more endangered than long distance battle.
Yeah, that's another gun that I don't see having a lot of viability for the timeout. I think it's going to be a fun gimmick to bring out, but I don't know how long this gun's going to stick around in the meta of the game. The magazines for the 20 rounders, I believe, are just a hair over 21,000 from Prop Ore. You have to go through that whole quest line just to unlock them you have to get the grenade shells and the military battery. That's a pretty hefty task to bring up to get that. I just don't see how this gun's going to do in the meta. You can't use it full auto ever. It is completely unusable. You need to barrel stuff the other person to be able to hit anything full auto, and then you're throwing shit against the wall.
Yep, absolutely agree. And I don't even think the gun itself is the issue. I think it's the lack of attachments that make the gun usable. Even if you completely deck this gun out with what's available for it, you just can't get a controllable gun. And maybe once Endwipe comes around and everybody's walking around in Gen 4s and forts and stupid shit, and we have our recoil skills up, and, we have laser beams on pretty much all of the automatic weapons, maybe then the Ash 12 will be a good weapon that is viable for shredding people's forts and getting through the chest. But right now, early wipe, our recoil control skills are still relatively low. It's just not working for me. It's not a weapon that I ever want to try and spray with. Tap fire, great time.
The rounds for that are pretty funny if you look at them. I don't know if you have your Battle Buddy open right now, if you could take a look at what the lowest pen round is, but the damage stats on that are so funny. I believe it has 8 pen and it's 100 plus some damage. It is ridiculous on the damage, and I think it's like 155. I could be wrong on that one, but it's super high. And then the top tier one has 30 somewhat pen, but the armor damage it's going to push through is a lot. So it definitely is a substantial bullet that will do damage. There's just no good platform to put that lead out of the barrel with.
Let's look here. I brought up the Battle Buddy app. We're going to look at our 12x7 by 55mm ST-130s. The top round is listed as the PS-12B. 40 pen, 90 damage. 57 armor damage. Subsonic, like I was saying, yeah, if you hit them in the chest, you're destroying their armor. This thing is an absolute armor menace. But still, on a gun of this caliber, I don't think it's impressive enough, given that it's like the big boy. It's the first of its kind,
Yeah, I don't see this gun hanging around too much, just like I don't see the TX-15 having really any viability in the meta. Now, before I go too quick on this, I love the gun. I have wanted an American AR-15 counterpart in the game for so long, purely because I want to carry an AR-15 on my guy. I get that everybody wants to run an M4. I don't feel the need to do that. But the sheer cost of this gun, it's 160 some thousand from Skier.
Yeah.
It has some mods on it, but they're not high-tier mods necessarily. It's an okay gun, but you can build a meta M4 out with way lower recoil that shoots full auto for a way lower price. I think the gun looks baller. I think it looks so cool, but I don't know who's going to run it. It's a baby RSAS, basically, at this point.
No, I agree with you. It's going to fall into that weird spot, just like the RSAS does, where it costs so much to use, yet there are cheaper counterparts that do the same job. It's almost not worth using. If you get one, you get one, and then you take it in for fun and you die and you lose it, or you say, hey, that was a fun time, and then you sell it. It's not a gun that you really want to... It's not something you hang on to. It's something you use for a fun time or to go flex on people, and then you say, hey, I have more cost-effective solutions that shoot the same round, that do the same job, that might even do the job better, or for a better, value, price to performance wise anyway. And you just, it just, like you said, it feels like another RSAS situation where you're not using it simply because of the cost.
I don't see who's using a TX-15 over an 8R. It's shooting the same round, carrying the same job. Now, the problem is the 8R, once you bring it into raid, the durability drops down to 80 out of 100, and the lower durability doesn't only create jams when you get lower, it actually lowers the accuracy of the weapon and creates a bigger bloom. But I don't know how often I've ever shot a round that's just entirely missed because of the bloom. I've never really run into that problem. Unless you're taking really long engagements, I think you're going to be fine with an 8R.
And I've never had a gun at such low durability that I felt like it became inaccurate. And I mean truly inaccurate. But I have heard some people on Reddit say that, once you get below, I think they said 40 or so durability, that's when it really starts to take effect. And honestly, how many times have you kept a gun around long enough to get it below 40?
I've had, last wipe I had an Asval. I had 2 of them actually below 30, and I just kept running them until I lost them. I wanted to see how low I could go with them. I was not repairing them. I was going to keep it rolling, but I lost them, man.
Oh, just
Interchange took me out.
Just flex on us then. Damn, we're not all as good at you as the PvP,
Nah, the durability goes down because I shoot so many bullets out of that gun.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. Aside, those are all of our new weapons that we can physically, bring back to our stash and handle. We have 2 more to cover. We got the 40 mic and the 50 cal mounted, both of which are interesting, fun, points of observation on the new map reserve. But at the end of the day, I personally will not get on them. I think they're a noob trap. I think they are gimmicky and not very useful. That's my opinion. I think I would have a better shot killing somebody with what I brought into the raid than what is provided for me on those mounted surfaces. What's your opinion?
I get on them sheerly for the novelty. I am itching to kill somebody with one of them, and every time I get on one of them, nobody comes by. The angle that you can aim them is very low. The places that they're set up isn't really that good for taking engagements. I know there's a couple ones that look out at the train yard, but you can't even see most of the train yard with it. You have to have people in a very small window, and the moment you press left click on that gun, everybody on the map is going to be looking towards you. Yeah. I got shot right down from one of them the other day.
I was going to say.
I was on it, one right to the head, and I dropped.
I got a clip of that.
Now,
I'll put that in the YouTube release of this. We'll keep it off of the audio-only segment, but if you're on the YouTube one, this clip's pretty funny.
All right, are we bouncing?
I don't care.
Are we going to...
Trying to hit the button. Oh, shit! Bro, you're so dead! Oh, that's what you fucking get, bro!
I get it. I've seen raiders use them, and that's gonna be a real problem when you get gunned down by Glukar and his boys on a 50.
They can get on the mounteds.
Yeah, they can. I've seen them get on the mountains.
Oh my god, I didn't know that. I haven't seen it. That sounds terrifying.
That's gonna be terrifying. I haven't ran into it yet. I've seen some other streamers have it happen, but that'll be an experience when that happens.
Yeah. Wow. I haven't heard that they could get on those. I was completely unaware. That's terrifying. So I like them. They're fun. They're entertaining, at least. Especially, when your buddy is on them and you're sitting right behind him and you just see him go limp. That's a funny time. I think they need to unconstrain the field of view on them a little more.
Oh, the 40 millimeter is very hard to use, that scope. Have you shot it, the 40 millimeter a lot? Have you noticed that the rounds are very off of where it goes? Not even the drop on the rounds, but they shoot to the left of your scope.
I have not noticed that. I haven't used it enough to notice that.
So if you're shooting at a target, you have to aim off of, if you're looking at a character, you have to aim to the right until they're out of your scope, because it shoots left. I'm not sure if that's a bug, an unintended thing, or if that's actually how that's functioning, but
Dude, that 40 mic's been sitting out there for years. That scope's just it's not dialed in. Somebody came over and said, this piece of shit, kicked it, knocked the scope out of alignment.
They need to zero them in better.
Yeah. And speaking of that, can we talk about the fact that you can't turn far enough left or right on the 40 mic at the observatory to actually kill anyone coming up the mountain?
Oh yeah, none of them have any real good points of aim. I think they need to add them to the train. So when you're leaving on the train, and let you leave on the train, so then you can just repel on the way out. That would be great. Having everybody who missed the train at the train station and just gunning them down.
And speaking of the train, listen, Nikita, please, give us some more time on the train when we extract. I ran in there the other day because I knew how long the doors stay open. I didn't want to be in there and, get camped or anything. So I ran in at the last minute. Surprise, surprise, there's a PMC just sitting on the train. Well, I kill him. I actually get the kill. I gun him down with the SKS. Complete luck. I feel bad for the guy. But, he gets all his shit back anyway at the end of this story. I kill him and the doors close, and I get extracted in 4 seconds. I didn't even get his dog tag. I can't even say sorry to you personally because I don't know who you were. Can we at least ride the train out of the station for, 10, 15 seconds and then have the extraction? It kind of sucks when you take a fight on this heavily contested point of the map and you feel so happy and proud because you killed this fully geared guy and you're like, I just had an SKS, sorry, bud. And then you can't take his stuff. Good for him. He gets it all back in insurance, but damn it, I really wanted that. I really wanted that armor set he was rocking.
So apparently that was planned and they were working on it. They just didn't want to push point 12 back any longer because the community was getting a little antsy to
okay,
say
that's
the least.
Fair. That's fair.
Yeah, so that is planned. I think it's coming soon. soon,
TM.
Yeah, so that should be fixed. You should be able to ride the train out. That's what I'm looking forward to.
I'm excited for it. I'm excited for, and this is something I actually think a lot of the maps in this game could use, and these are later points of things, that I'm sure will get added. Most of the maps do not have an interesting point of contention. And what I mean by that is, so on reserve, we have the train. And like I said, I just had a very exciting story about battling this guy to get out of the map, And that's a fun story to tell. It's a fun thing to experience. A lot of the other maps don't have something like that. We don't have points of interest, so to speak, that force you to take that combat, that make it a real fight or flight scenario. And I get it, it's just a video game, but I'm sure some of our listeners like me feel very immersed when they play this game. I don't play with the HUD, I play with the graphics all the way up, even if it's not as competitive, quote unquote, for my hardware. I like how it looks super good and how I feel super immersed. And, when you die, that shit can be scary. So we need more things to bring us into these PvP battles. At least that's my opinion. The train is great. I love the train.
Oh yeah, I think it's amazing. I think bringing the fights in and everybody running out of that train when that last whistle blows and you have a minute to get on there, everybody rushing trying to get in to fight, that's great. I think there's things that they could bring to a lot of the maps, such as, I've heard this one brought up before, but Kiba. When you unlock the Kiba doors, sound an alarm. So everybody knows that somebody's in Kiba. They know that somebody's going to be coming out of there in 2.5 minutes with a whole bunch of good loot. Make more players know where each other are. Yep. I've had a lot of raids on Interchange. I think that, what's the limit on Interchange? Is it 14 PMCs?
I think it's 12 or 14. That sounds about
I've
right.
had raids on Interchange where you just don't run into anyone. There's so many. There's 3 levels to the map. There's a whole outside that people like to run around. And you can just walk past each other and not have these funneling areas to bring people in to fight each other.
Oh, and you'll never know. You'll never know.
Oh, yeah, you can just walk right past each other on that map and have no clue.
Reserve did a really good job of trying to force the players to find other players. We have the mounted guns that you're going to hear and look at. We got the observatory, which everyone's always peeking. In fact, laying up there might be a mistake. Like, yeah, you can kill anybody on the map up there, but everybody's going to be looking back at you. We got the train. We got the alarm when you're trying to go to the hermetic door. And that's a great example of how that Kiba idea could work. They've already basically prototyped it with this new map. You have a switch. The switch triggers a sound cue. The sound cue triggers a chance for raiders to spawn. And then you know where that player's trying to go. Once that alarm goes off, they're either ringing it to get the raiders to come in, ringing it for shits and giggles, or ringing it because they need to get out of the map and they don't have that pickaxe.
Yeah, the reserve map was a pretty big undertaking for them. It was a lot of big steps in a forward direction. I like a lot of what they did, and I think there's a couple problems with it. I don't think anything about the general map design is really off. I think the map's well designed. There's my problems with it here and there, but nothing completely glaring that throws me off. I think there's a lot of big lanes to get shot from, but that just comes with skill and learning the map better of where you can and can't go. But I think some of the extracts, such as the scav lands, were really a missed point of interest there. I think they could have done a lot better things. I do not see that extract being used. I would be very surprised if I ended this wipe using that extract with a friendly scav.
Yeah, it's tough. So here's the incentive to use it. You both get stuff from fence. Cool. Here's how you incentivize another person near it to go with you. Exactly. I see that moment of silence there. It's because the scavs don't have dedicated voice lines. I can't be a scav and say, "Hey, come on, I'll go with you. Like, don't kill me. Let's leave." And if you're a PMC, the best thing you can do is hide in that little tower near it and keep spamming hold your fire, at which point another PMC is just going to locate you and shoot you anyway, or an AI scav is going to find you and just be like, "Hey, let's battle it out," because they're not going to extract with you. It's a cool concept, but the execution of it is, I don't want to say lacking, it's just we have no real way to make it work on a consistent basis.
So when I'm a PMC, I'm shooting anything that moves. If somebody's there trying to extract with me, I'm just shooting them before they can even react. It's not my fault. I'm just reacting instinctually to how I've learned to play as a PMC. And when I'm a scav, I'm shooting any PMC I see. So there's no way to bring these people together to get out of that map. That is rarely going to be touched, that extract.
Yeah, and especially when they make that extract look like an ambush. You literally have to funnel into this one little area. It has, big metal shields covering it, and it's exposed from every side. So once you get in that little trap, if you're not actually exfilling from there, you have to come back out into the open from every angle, and B, you have to deal with when you do go into there if somebody's trying to trick you.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't trust a player scav. If I have all this gear on me, I am not going to that extract. I'm finding a safer way out.
Oh, I did that the other day on reserve. I got a guy all geared up, took him through. At first, I killed his buddy. That was an accident. Sorry, guy. Look, I turned the corner and you were there. I killed you. But, I saw his buddy, and his buddy didn't have any gear, and he wasn't going to be able to kill me. So I wiggled at him, and I tossed him his buddy's dog tag. I told him, follow me. Got him all geared up. Took him up to the observatory. And I said, "Hey, you stay here, set up camp." And then I said, "We go our separate ways." I turned around to leave. Dude kills me and takes my shit. Yeah, that's just Tarkov. But it shows you, even when you try to be nice, it's really hard to trust people. And especially when you're talking about, an extract that is shared, how do you communicate that you're actually trustworthy? How do you communicate that you're actually going to use this extract with me? It's a cool idea, but it just doesn't work right now.
So here's an idea I just came up with for the extract. I'm not sure how well this fits in with Battlestate's plans for the map, but why not let that extract be open to just having 2 player-controlled characters there? If you're in a group with your other PMC friends, what is different about having a scav there? Why can't you just go there with 2 PMCs and get out? Now, I don't think you should get stuff from fence if 2 PMCs get out, but I don't see what the bad idea is there if you can have 2 people to use it.
Or even, what if they just limited it to 2 separate parties? 2 parties that are not queued together. I kind of like the idea. I think making it so that queued players can use it kind of hurts the solo players. So I think a fair compromise would just be 2 players not partied. Because at least if you're on PMCs, I've had plenty of raids where I can communicate with another PMC because we have the voice lines, and we'll team up and we have fun. We just did that recently, actually. We had that 4-man going for a while, and our one buddy died. I don't know if you remember that, but that's beside the point. The point is, we need better ways to use these joint extracts if you actually want them to get used.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
I think we beat that into the ground. Let's move on. I do want to give a big shout out to the reserve map having good windows that you can see through, that easily silhouette people, that make it so that even when people are in these buildings trying to camp out a good shot, you can still find them. Let's bring that to custom, please.
Yeah, when you're fighting in the pawn buildings near the helicopters, you can see clearly into every window across from them.
Yeah, I love it. I like having those building to building fights. It's a lot of fun. Especially if you have some squad mates on and you're communicating with, hey, level 3, window 5, left to right. Like, that's a good time. More of that. More of that.
Yeah, I like how this reserve map really broke the mold on what every other Tarkov map has been. You've had slight variations between factory with a couple different extracts locked behind keys and shoreline, but they've all really been from the same cookie cutter mold. They've been a big map with a couple points of contentions and a few extracts. You spawn on different sides. This shook up the game.
Oh yeah, reserve is great. The verticality, I haven't even touched on that yet. But the verticality, man, you learn the underground of this map and you can just master, like, everyone else on this map becomes your bitch because they have no clue where you've gone. You can reach almost every point of this map completely underground. You do have to come above ground for, a select little sprints here and there. But the underground on this map is truly impressive.
Yeah, when you first load into the map for your first time, you don't really realize how big it is. It doesn't look that big from first impression. But when you start exploring how many levels of buildings there are and how much underground there is, this map is massive. And I think having a 10-player limit on this map is way too low. I've had so many quiet raids running around this map because people either die to scavs or you just don't run into each other. I have yet to run into a player in the underground.
Oh, I agree.
Every fight that I've had was outside. I don't know if people just haven't discovered the underground or learned how to play it, but there's been no action there. You can walk around the underground all day.
Oh, for free. Completely for free. I've encountered 2 players, and I've been playing a lot of reserve because I really like the map. Really, really like the map. Speaking of liking the map, one of my favorite features of this map, like you mentioned, is the verticality. You have the observatory, you have the underground sections, you have the just regular ground level stuff, but let's get away from the verticality for a moment and focus on good map design. Good map design on this map is that there is no true hard boundaries, really. Like, you have your mountain range and the 2 fences, but you have the minefield and the sniper field, and it really makes the game feel so much more alive. I'm no longer constrained by these, walls. Like on customs, no matter where you go on customs, you always run into a GD wall. These damn walls, I swear. They get so annoying because you feel boxed in. Reserves stepped back from that, and they said, hey, we're going to give you some open fields you can look out into, but you can't leave. You can't leave. You'll die if you go out there. But they did it in a smart way that is different from every other map, and I love it. I appreciate that they did that so much. It makes the game feel so much more immersive. And I'm a big, I keep hounding on that. I love the immersion of the game, and that helps.
I've been very well aware of these boundaries and where they are, so I've never walked out into them. Those new players who walk into that minefield for the first time, I feel for them, man. You're just walking thinking you're exploring something, your legs start getting blown up. That has to be a cool experience, I'm not gonna lie.
You know how many funny clips I've seen of people being with their buddies, just, oh yeah, you gotta go, like on Shoreline now, the little minefield at the 11 wall, the big wall with the 11 painted on it has that little minefield. I've seen so many clips of people being with their buddies like, hey, I gotta go take a piss, go over in that, they added this, they're gonna expand the map, go look at the 11 wall, there's an Easter egg. And their buddies walk over there and they just get blown to shit. It's so funny.
Nikita, you evil man.
I wish I didn't know about him. I wish I wasn't aware. I'd have loved to experience it.
Yeah, that definitely interesting what they added there.
And I hope people are going to hate me for saying this. I hope the landmines are a small nod to more explosives being added to the game. And I don't want to say the C word. I don't want to say Claymore because people don't like that. But I if you do some research, in real life, Claymores are not Call of Duty. They're not as scary as you think they are. I mean, they're still scary. They'll fucking kill you. Don't get me wrong. But they're not like IR lasers. You walk by and they're tripwires. They're remote detonated. They take a certain level of finesse to use. I don't think they would actually impact the game, but that's another. We'll talk about that on the next episode. But I am excited to see that we're getting new things that we didn't know were coming.
Yeah, that's always great when a new patch hits and you find those little secrets that they didn't talk about in the updates. Little Easter eggs all around, tiny little changes. That's my favorite part.
Did we get any more hidden funny Easter eggs or anything like that I'm not thinking of right now? I'm sure we did, and I'm just not going to hit on them. But
I know they have hidden stashes everywhere. Not really an Easter egg, but that was just a cool thing to just pop up. These hidden stashes all over the maps.
I like the new stashes. I like them. I've gotten some really weird gear out of them. Like tell me this one. I opened one of the stashes on customs, and it had a car battery, a can of Tushonka, and a T-plug in it.
Hey, you don't know who's hiding that stuff there.
Like, are we taking apart the T-plug to, like, short-circuit this battery and cook up some hot Tushonka? What are we doing? Why is this hidden in an underground stash?
I saw in the marketplace, there's a key, and it says, USEC hidden stash on custom zone. I would love to find where that is, to find a lock stash. There's probably some good stuff in there.
You know, I actually haven't been researching the new keys because I like discovering the stuff firsthand. Some of the stuff, like, you know, I look up because obviously I want to be in the know, and especially that we're going to be doing this podcast, I want to have current information. But I haven't even heard of that key, so that's new news for me. That sounds exciting.
Yeah, I just came across it on the flea market one day. But speaking of keys, that is one of my problems with Reserve. I think Reserve is kind of like Shoreline in the way that if you don't have a key, you're not going to be getting a whole lot of good loot. Now, Reserve does have a lot of good loot. You can come across some of the expensive military objects, but there are so many keys and so many locked rooms on that map. Unless you go in there with a key, you are not coming out with bags and bags full of stuff.
You know, the loot on that map is good, but we're running back into an age-old problem. The age-old problem of people doing their loot runs. Look, I have no problem if you want to do a loot run, especially if you want to do it on Shoreline. Let's be honest, Shoreline is a dead map. At least that's my opinion. Shoreline's a dead map. Nobody goes to that map to play for fun. But Reserve is now running into... Look, I love Pestily, but Pestily released his loot run of the map, and now a lot of people are copying it, and I find so many people that just run to the value rooms, and they gamma whatever they can, and they don't even stay for the raid. They just disconnect, and you find their dog tag, and it just says, died. Like, come on. If you're gonna come in, at least stay for the raid.
I run into a lot of people just pistol and backpacks, just full of stuff, just sprinting around as quick as they can from place to place to fill up their stuff. I get why people do it. People want to make money, but that's not how I enjoy playing the game.
Agreed.
I would rather go in, take fights, and earn the stuff I get. Not trying to cheese people out of gear, not trying to go in there and be fast and sneaky. It's Tarkov, it's a sandbox, you play how you want, but that's not my favorite thing.
And hey, listen. If you're one of those loot runners, I'm not trying to be mean to you, I'm not trying to offend you, but this game makes money for you. If you just play the game, you will make money. All you have to do is scav in, survive a scav. Free money. Didn't even risk any gear. If you're going to play on your PMC, come on. Like, you're taking up a map slot. The maps only have so many PMCs available to play on them. And we want to have fun, and we want to have engagements. We want to have the fights. We want to battle over the loot. And I get that's not everyone's play style. Maybe you're not very good at aiming, or you're not really the kind of person that wants to take the fights. Maybe you like playing sneaky beaky. That's cool. Just let's cut back on the loot runs, guys. Let's
bring a TT, bring a Makarov.
Yeah.
Bring something.
Just bring anything so that
get
when
a pistol for under 10,000 rubles.
Yeah, when we kill you or we find your dead body, at least there's something. Stop disconnecting.
Not even that.
Don't be that guy.
I don't get the hatchet thing. Why couldn't you bring in a pistol and fight a scav? You can kill a scav and get a better gun. You can play gun game with it.
Especially with off-raid healing. We haven't even touched on off-raid healing yet. Hatchet runs don't work now. If I find you and you're a hatchy, I absolutely think that you don't understand the game.
I don't know how much that's going to divert the hatchlings from playing, though. If you're going in...
I actually have found significantly less.
I have also. But I don't know if that's directly linked to the off-raid healing. If you go in on 435 health or you go in on 30% health, you're planning to die anyway. You're going to die from anybody that you run into on your hatchet. What does it matter?
No, you're right. I didn't even think about that. Well, you do have to at least fix the fractures.
You're right. Fractures, and you need to drink and eat stuff.
Yeah, okay. So it does have an effect on hatchlings. We can say that, but maybe not as much as we'd like to see. But, whatever. We're hampering on hatchlings. That's just our opinion. Bring in some gear, you fuckers. All right. Is there anything left on Reserve that we really need to talk about? We covered what we liked. We covered what we didn't like. Verticality of the map. Fun map. I honestly give it like an A-. I think it's there. It's just not completely polished yet. There are a couple little things that I'd like to see improved. But I love it. It's my new go-to, probably my favorite map right now.
Yeah, I've been having a lot of fun on it.
And at first it was scary. But once you understand it...
It was terrifying. I wasn't looking forward to learning a new map in all reality.
Oh, but once you learn it, it's a blast. Yeah, I think that covers the reserve section. Hopefully you guys enjoyed some of the screenshots if you're following the video portion. If not, let's just move on to our next thing we want to talk about. And I think that since we covered the new map, let's cover the hideouts really quickly. Look, I don't have much to say on them because I don't have my hideout that far evolved. They're expensive. They're a money sink. You need to spend time and effort to really level these things up, and I think that's great. Tarkov for a long time has needed something to burn your money on, and this is the thing. And it gives you great return for what you put into it. The hideout has so many useful things, but I have to say, I think the most important part of the hideout is Medbay level 2. Medbay level 2 really be hitting different. You can make pretty much infinite IFAKs once you have Medbay level 2. You buy car med kits from therapists, you buy army bandages, they're dirt cheap. You deconstruct them and reconstruct them, and you get 2 IFAKs for every 2 car meds that you have. And that's a game changer. I have so many IFAKs banked up, and I haven't run labs once this wipe, because labs is its own issue. We'll touch on that in episode 2. But wow, hideout Medbay level 2. Thank you.
I know that they just added Xillie to Medbay 1. I don't know what it is yet. I haven't logged on yet today to look at it.
Yeah, that just happened.
I know that is a new addition. Yeah, I'm not sure what it is, so that might also be a good thing. But my hideout, I have such a love-hate with it. I love the money sink. I love being able to build up this higher sense of immersion, building something of your own and working towards something else rather than a lot of these quests, which, let's be honest, nobody really likes the quests in this game. There's a lot of bad quests. But the hideout gives you another thing to do in this game, expanding the time that you have having fun in the wipe even farther. Because the end game usually falters. A lot of people don't like the end game, and the player base starts to drop off. When you add a big, large money sink to the game,
it effectively makes end game come later.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what Tarkov really needs to push towards. But the hideout itself, I've been working pretty hard on getting some of my stuff up, and I just don't really use it. I don't go in there and I don't craft anything on the workbench. I don't use my medbay ever. I get why you say you could use it, but I just never feel the need to go in there. I just buy meds off the flea. I buy them off therapist if I need them. I personally don't go in there. I get the good things you could do with it, but I think until you get that very leveled and you get Bitcoin miners later on, I don't really personally see a lot of it. The scav case and the Bitcoin miner is about it for me. I don't see myself using anything other than them.
Well, as I touched on earlier, yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm all about the immersion, so I typically don't buy my meds. Having that medbay really helps someone like me who likes to feel like I'm doing it, you know? But yeah, it's good for progression. It's good to have a sense of progression in the game now. Because before, all we had were the quests, and like you said, no one likes the quests. The quests need a very big overhaul. That's its own thing. But yeah, I love the hideout for what it is, for it postponing you getting to end game. It is super expensive, but it's a lot of fun. And one thing that it really helps with that I don't think either of us have to worry about, we both have EOD accounts, but you can now get an EOD stash even if you have a normal account. It just takes a ton of work. And I think that's good. I think that's great. I paid a lot of money to have my stash bigger, and some people are going to cry pay to win, whatever. It doesn't affect the actual when you're in the game. But now everybody has access to it, and I love that. I love that if you don't have physical money, outside of the game world, you're not limited if you just work hard enough to get your stash bigger. That's great.
Yeah, it's really expensive, but at least it gives players a way to get up to EOD. I don't personally think that EOD should be that much of an advantage. I think they should level that playing field as much as possible. I don't like the whole pay to win thing. I think that everybody should be on the same playing field. I paid that money to support the devs. I have gamma changes that I think should happen, but that's a different topic.
Yeah.
But I just don't like having people being locked to a small stash or smaller containers. I think as much as you can level the playing field is a good idea for me.
Oh, I absolutely agree to that. Let's see. We have a couple more things to go over this episode. We still have to touch on our featured weapon. So each episode, we're going to take one weapon in the game, and we're going to talk about, why you should use it, why you shouldn't use it, what's good, what's bad, things like that. For this episode, we're going to be talking about the Vepr Hunter. So, Sippy, you want to take this one away? I know that you recommended it, so let's talk about it.
Vepr Hunter is both the best and the worst gun in the game, and let me touch on that. It is the best game because you're firing a 7.62 by 51 NATO round that will tear through everybody for such a low price. That M80 round will shred, and your scavs come with M61 rounds that will shred any armor. It is the best round in the game. So the problem therein lies in the round. I think that it is good if you're a PMC and you want to go in, but I think scavs and player scavs having the ability to load in and have that good of a gun, that's not really floating my boat.
Absolutely.
I think you should have to work harder to get that, and that should be a thing that you unlock. I think the way to fix that is to have a lower tier 7.62 by 51 round. Now that creates a lot of problems in the balancing of the game, because if you want to look at bullet ballistics, the higher pen a bullet is, the lower flesh damage it's going to do. So if you create a lower pen round to mitigate some of the high armor damage that you can do with M61, you're then and therefore having to increase the damage. But I think for that gun, you got to break that sense of realism and give us a much lower tier round. Maybe, I don't know exactly what they make for this round, but if there's some sort of subsonic, some soft tip hollow point, I don't know what you can do to balance that. I'm not a ballistics expert, but I think that they need to bring in a lower tier round for that gun.
Well, I think
to be able to leave that on scavs.
I think you make a good point. And let's talk back on the bullets for a second. You mentioned soft tip hollow points. I think that's two things that this gun could benefit from, is if we added hollow point rounds and we added like a practice round. Like, you know how you go to your ammo store and you want to go shoot some targets at the range and you just buy the shittiest ammo? Let's add something like that. That's not necessarily a well chambered round, so to speak. We get a hollow point type round that it's going to absolutely rip your torso open if you're not wearing armor, but if you're wearing armor, it's just going to disperse. And then we add like a practice type round that has like maybe a really high pen, but somewhat low damage. And again, you touched on a good subject. Scavs, specifically, player scavs, spawning with M61 rounds, you can now effectively 2-tap anyone in the chest up to like class 4 or class 5.
Anyone, class 6 armor.
Even class 6.
You can go through a fort in 2 shots.
Wow. That's insane. And you have the ability to spawn in on your player scav, risk absolutely no gear, risk absolutely no armor, nothing, and completely destroy somebody's day who's risking their stuff on a PMC. I think Vepr hunters are not a problem on AI scavs. If you kill that scav, good for you. You got a good gun. You worked for it. Now, if you just spawn in on your player scav, man, that's so, I don't want to say cheesy, but come on. Same thing with the FAL. We're not going to talk about the FAL. We're doing the Vepr hunter, but that's a scav issue. So what's great about this gun? This gun is incredibly affordable if you want to bring it in on your PMC. Incredibly affordable. It shoots a very good round. There's not much you can do in way of modding. There are other chassis for this weapon that exist in real life that we don't have in the game yet. And that's not a spoiler. We don't know if we're getting them, but I was just saying. The gun itself, though, incredibly cheap, incredibly effective, very accurate, and fun to use. It's a fun weapon. So I mean, I think it's a good gun if you want to bring it in on your PMC. I hate the player scavs that spawn with this stuff, but overall, the Vepr Hunter, great gun. I give it like a B+. Tier wise?
No, I'm A+, best gun in the game.
I say tier wise, it's insane. The gun's great. Fun wise, I have more fun with certain other guns, so I give it a B+.
Yeah, I don't think much really beats the Vepr Hunter right now in terms of cost to effectiveness. It's probably the tier 1 S tier best gun in the game. I mean, in that metric,
unless you want to talk Mosin, but even then, the Vepr Hunter and the Mosin cost very similar amounts, and we're talking semi-auto versus bolt. So,
I'm taking a Vepr Hunter over a Mosin every day.
Oh, me too. But that's just my playstyle.
So we have a couple points here that we didn't quite touch on yet. A couple new features that were coming in 0.12 features, things that were added. So the new trader Jaeger. What are your thoughts on Jaeger?
Oh my god, I completely forgot about Jaeger. Okay, here's my thoughts. I'm gonna sum this up in like less than 10 seconds. Bad items, bad quests, cool art.
Yeah, there's not a lot that Jaeger brings to the table. His quest line is a drag. The only really good thing I see Jaeger for is the sick case that he carries, which any other trader could have. The 60 hertz thermal scope, which any other trader has. The T7 thermal at loyalty level 4, which they're balancing. I don't know if that's back in the game yet. I know they've been taking it out, messing with the price. And then the CMS kit.
CMS. Oh, dude, I love the CMS.
Any of these could have been pushed onto the other traders, and with a boring quest line, I don't know what Jaeger really brings to the table. I know that he does bring the CMS kit, which is my favorite thing that in all of
That's the best
12.
thing they did.
Better than the lighting, better than the optimizations. The fact that you can go into a raid, get your limbs blacked, and fix them and still fight on. You have some sort of penalty, but you have the ability to still carry on the fight and do things in the raid. It is great.
Yeah, the CMS and the Survive 12, great items. I love the fact that you're no longer punished if a scab blacks your leg if you came prepared. You come prepared and you're good to go. I love the fact that, you know, you can basically get knocked out of the round, but get back up and finish what you started. It's good.
A pop stomach is no longer a death sentence. You're not running around everywhere looking for.
You're not running around
coughing everywhere, popping painkillers.
Oh, I love the CMS. It's so good. It's so good. There's not a single item in the game that I would rather have. Well, I mean, that's a lie. Obviously, I'd take a LEDX and sell it and buy CMSs, but I think it's
now,
great.
To give Jaeger some bonus points here, he does bring in a lot of new shotgun ammo to the table, which is a good change in my eyes. I think the shotguns were really unviable, especially late game. You're just shooting at people's legs. But with some of the new AP slugs he brought in, I've been using the flechette rounds. Those things tear. They don't do a lot of armor damage, or they do a lot of armor damage, but you can't pen a lot of armor. But you can just tear people down. If you shoot at a face shield, you're going right through it. So I do like that he brings some sort of viability to the shotguns, and he brings in that whole hunter vibe that he brings in, and that's why he has them on him. So I will give him a point there.
Yeah.
I am not the biggest fan.
Story-wise, lore-wise, fitting the gameplay, or not fitting the gameplay, but fitting the idea behind the game-wise, Jaeger's cool. I like him. It's just, he's underwhelming at best right now. I will say, like you mentioned, the shotgun rounds. Man, I used the 1270 Paleva 6Us. Whoo, boy. All right, listen, they're not the best round. They're like the fourth best round if you really look at it in terms of numbers. But those boys are bright green. Not bright green, but they're green, which is my favorite color, right? You can load those boys up into the Sega 12, and then you can just dump them on somebody, and it's so fun.
Is that a slug round?
It is yes, it is a Full Metal Jacket slug shell. Oh my god, it's so fun, dude. And it's actually kind of accurate. That's the thing, it's pretty accurate at range.
He has a 50 BMG round shoved into a shotgun shell, which I need to try out.
Oh, I haven't touched it.
Purely for the novelty.
Yeah, maybe
shooting 50 BMG out your shotgun.
Let's make a note here. I'm gonna make a note here. Episode 2, shotgun review. We're gonna review these rounds.
We're gonna try out all the shells.
Yeah, we're just gonna load into a server and have Sippy shoot me in the legs over it. No, I'm kidding. We don't do that. We don't do test and tune. We take this shit in for real world testing. If I die in raid with it, then you know it was a bad round.
Okay, quick. Thermal goggles T7. What are your thoughts?
Don't let it be gamma-able. It's too strong. It needs a nerf. I don't know. It's hard to say when you're looking at realism versus gameplay. I think it's too strong in the aspect of this is a video game. I think it is not too strong in the fact that this shit exists in real life. Somebody on Reddit made a post. I'm sorry, I forget your name. If this is you, hit us up. But he made a post talking about how effective battle weapons shouldn't be fair. And he compared basically the T7 goggles to getting like an AC-130 and using it in Tarkov, and like
it was some sort of attack helicopter.
And how much each helicopter cost, and how much each round you fire would cost, and like it came out to be actually incredibly interesting because he said like just to get the helicopter, you need like 55 billion rubles or something like that. Each round would be like 13 million a shot, something like that in in-game currency. He made a good point of drawing a line to where is it no longer fun for other players versus more fun for you to get this item. Because he said, obviously, we're never going to get attack helicopters in Tarkov, and it would completely ruin the gameplay if you could load into customs in your attack helicopter. But the T7, I like what they are. I don't like how strong they are in terms of this is a video game.
I'm very on the fence on this one. I don't know how to feel about it. I do think that you shouldn't be able to pull them in and out of your gamma. That is just ridiculous that you can just spot with them. People did that last wipe with a 2-slot MP7 with the Reap IR on it. that's playing the game. That's pushing the boundaries of what you should be able to do. You know better, people. If you're pulling your thermals out of your gamma, stop it. Get some help.
Get some help.
But it's a really cool thing that it brings to the table. To be able to run around in thermal goggles, and then for the balancing, you can't see through glass, you can't use your scopes, you're limited to your iron sights, so then you're going to be running a high-tier gun, I assume, if you're putting 900,000 rubles on your face. But you're running around with an M4 with irons. Well, how long of a range can you shoot with that? What can you do? I don't know.
See, I wouldn't say that's even necessarily true, because here's the thing. I think it was Pestily. It was either Pest or Slush. I saw them doing this on stream where they had the T7s on their head and they had the FLIR on their gun, and they would just toggle the T7s on and off. They would spot with the T7s, toggle them off, and then use their thermal scope on the gun. And it's like, what do you do against that? People say that hacking in this game is bad. Wall hacking is terrible. Don't do that shit, kids. But this almost gets to the point of you essentially have open space wall hack or ESP, so to say. And I don't want to compare hacking to an item in the game because they're completely different things. Hacking is unethical. Don't do it. Using items in the game, at worst, you're being a cheese lord. Like, you're being cheesy. If you're coming in with T7s and an FLIR, at least don't gamma them. If somebody kills you, let them have that loot. Like, I have issues with the gamma case. The only thing I keep in my gamma is my meds. I keep my keys in there too. Who doesn't? But putting a thermal in your gamma, man, that needs to get... I heard they might be actually nerfing it to not be gamma-able, which I agree with. But I don't know. It's a hard subject to tackle. I'm not a game dev.
It brings up the point again that when you use them, you have that very small monocle, so you have a very narrow field of view, and then you can only use irons with it. Now, for rebuttal, do you have a problem with the FLIR Reap IR scope being in the game?
No, because you have to actively be ADSing to be able to use the thermal, which puts you at a big disadvantage. Especially
yeah, but you just spot with it. You bring in a high ergo gun. It's the same thing that the thermal goggles do.
It's hard to say.
That's what I did last wipe. I was running an MPX, a really high ergo, really low recoil one. And I would walk around the map with my gun up for most of the time, just spinning and spotting, looking for people. I don't have a problem with that, so I don't see what the huge problem is with the T7. I know the community is outraged about this.
Well,
but
the
cost of entry for
2
it
mil
and what it brings to the table, yeah, well, now, it's going to go back down when they re-add it to the trader.
That's true.
But I just don't have a problem with it. I'm fine with it.
I'm still on the fence with it. I will say, interesting point that you brought up was having the high ergo and walking around with the scope is one thing, because the scope has a fixed range at which it will detect heat. I'm pretty sure the T7s can just see the thermal signature across almost every single map.
Yeah, they do have a pretty far view.
I think
them.
that's
I'm not sure
maybe,
if there is a limit to that.
I think that's maybe what needs to be fixed.
But how many spots do you have that's really effective?
I don't know, man. When you're looking at
shoreline woods reserve.
Yeah, when you're looking at the open maps.
You're right.
And what do you do if you're that guy in the field that doesn't even know you've already been spotted? You don't stand a chance.
Yeah, I'll give you that one. Yeah, I don't know. It's in a really weird place, and I know the community's not happy about it.
There's no good answer to this. No matter how we answer this, one part of the community is gonna be like, "Hey, these guys are right and intelligent," and the other part of the community is gonna be like, fuck these idiots. They don't know what they're talking about."
Yeah, I've never used them yet, to be honest, so I don't have a really good answer to this. I need to save my money up and give them a good try.
Yeah, you don't even have 2 million
when they get
rubles.
re-added.
What do you got, like 30,000?
What are you talking about? I can buy 2 pairs of those things, baby.
All right, Mr. Moneybags.
4 million's not money bags.
Yeah, I mean, at least you're not Willer Z right now. Last I looked, he had 63 million rubles or something.
Already?
Yeah, I was on his stream like last night. Him and Slush were duo streaming, man. He had like 63 million rubles. I was like, how?
I know he runs labs a lot, though. Was he running labs?
When I was watching them, they were on interchange and reserve. I only saw like a very little bit of it because Slush was trying to get his kappa, which if you got that, I assume you got that by the time this comes out. Congrats to you, man. You were so close when I was watching the other night. But yeah, 63 mil, an impressive figure. I don't know if anybody else has more money that I've seen.
I had 63 mil at the end of last wipe. sure don't have
My
it now.
my guy, we are 3 weeks in.
Yeah, that's an impressive feat.
Yeah, congrats on that one, man. We got anything left? I think we're approaching.
We pretty much touch base.
Yeah. So I think that's it for episode 1. It was a lot of fun. I think we went over some important things. We got the goods, the bads, and well, me, I'm the ugly. But let's give them a small preview. Episode 2, we're gonna do the new shotgun rounds they got added. We're gonna give you a review of those and how much they're actually pretty much all terrible. What else were we going to talk about? We're going to go a little bit more in depth on some of the healing items in the game. We're going to talk about the CMS and the Survive 12 and why one might be better than the other or vice versa. We're going to be bringing in the screenshot showcase on our next episode, where we each post an interesting screenshot and talk about what makes it interesting. And what's our featured weapon going to be for the next one?
You'll just have to tune in and see.
Oh, shit. He's not going to tell you guys. That
Leaving
sucks.
me hanging.
Well, I guess you'll have to tune in next time, guys. So, from me and Sippy.
Thanks for tuning in, and good luck escaping from Tarkov.